Okay, sorry everyone, we had connection problems, but this is going to be a very great show with Lorato Kuzwayo. I got it right. Got my beer at
Yeah,
4 in the morning. For and this is a show about Zim and jazz, but today we're going to focus on it. And I want to thank you very much, Lorato, for introducing me to Dumile. What's his last name? Feni.
Dumile Feni.
Unbelievable work. When I first saw his work, immediately I saw that okay, you could call it Afro pessimism, but it's what I call a heavy concentration of energy, especially his sculptures, which concentrate a lot of energy so that they look like they're inert and not alive, and they're
Yeah,
suffering from what I would call Black death while being alive, having to be a slave, having to work on fields, having to be subjected
sure.
to the apartheid regime, having to be accepted to what Black people go through in Brazil. But it's a very painful thing. And on another show, I was saying that we can't express pain in art or music because pain is is a personal thing, not a personal, but it's an interior thing. But he comes very close. He's the closest I've ever seen to. And when you look at his sculptures and his drawings, there's no anger, there's no fear, there's nothing, but there's death and defeat. But there's not even dignity, but everything is on the edge of those things. There's some of his sculptures are on the edge of dignity, on the edge of anxiety, but it's a very neutral, almost like a zombie. But I'll let you continue because you know a lot more about his work than I do, and we can talk about how it's related to music and art. Continue, and also thank you
Yeah,
because when you told me that visual can talk about what jazz is, I was thinking more of like explosiveness because you know jazz swings, but I wasn't thinking
yeah,
that you were going to talk about pain. And it forced me to think, how does Black death express itself through optimistic arts? Because I know you're a Black consciousness, and I am too, but we all acknowledge the Afro pessimistic view, which is that we're consistently under pressure and we're almost dead, but we're not dead. Continue.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, for sure, man. So, I think to recap from what I was saying. So, my my own journey within the arts is trying to find that um, uh, Afro-humanism or Ubuntu kind of core of the cultural space, of doing
Yeah.
cultural work, in
Mhm.
that it can then um, reinvigorate the humanity in us that
Yeah.
is consistently being dispossessed from us by the world that we live in. Um, so this is how then I came to connect with people like Lifi Fitladi, who is through him I actually got to meet Uprazim as well. You were speaking earlier about how Lifi Fitladi, the first time I saw him play anything, I think he was playing a banknote. Actually, it
Yeah.
was at a Ngqawana performance that was in a gallery. I think it was Vandalism. I don't know if you've seen the film Vandalism.
No, but I'm going
This,
to check it out and we can discuss it
yeah,
because we're
yeah,
going to do two shows. We're going to discuss that also. But thank you. Yeah, I haven't watched it, but I've seen some footage of those guys, but I don't think I've seen that. Yeah.
yeah. I think you must check out Vandalism, because I think Vandalism is is my sort of most intense experience with. Well, it is the one time that I got to meet Zim.
Hmm.
Um,
Well, you're blessed. You're blessed. You're very
yeah,
blessed
yeah, yeah,
to
yeah,
have
yeah.
met that
No,
young
for
man.
sure. And it in that sort of connection, a lot of things also happen subsequent to that, that are sort of connected to this thing, to that particular performance, or
Yeah.
that particular day that we got to meet.
So basically,
So
that was a sort of awakening for you, or not awakening, but a quickening. It was maybe that's what kind of, would you say so? Or before that, had you already found your, well, not found your way, but did that have any super influence on what you're doing now? Just having to meet him and going to that awakening thing. Yeah. Yeah.
um, let, it's just perhaps a new perspective, like a way
Yeah.
of looking at things.
Yeah.
But my being there at the time had already been part of this process
Okay. Okay.
of
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
becoming, conscious, or becoming awakened. I
Yeah.
think I think listening to the music is what sort of spurred that on. When I first heard Zymology. It was
Yeah.
Zymology, because I got the album from my neighbor.
Yeah.
Because that's when I was starting to learn the guitar, So
Yeah.
my neighbor saw me with the guitar and he was like, "No man, here's some jazz stuff. You should listen to this stuff." So he gave me some Jimmy Lulu, some Earl Clue,
Yeah. I've
and
heard Lulu. I haven't heard Clue.
this
Yeah.
this Ngqawana album. Who is the only one in the collection who wasn't a guitarist, but he's the one that I connected with the most.
Yeah.
Because I had been listening to jazz almost passively until that time,
Yeah.
Then I started really listening, like active listening, and getting into deeper listening into the sound. And I can say that I have heard that sound sort of being carried through as I started then attending jazz performances at the Africa Freedom Station, where I used to photograph a lot.
Yeah. That place is closed now, right? Are they going to come back? I've always wished that they would
No,
come
no,
back.
the space is open now. There's a new space. There's a new space. Yeah, I think Yonalam Nana was performing yesterday.
Piano.
Praheditswai
Yeah.
performed on the 27th of April there. But I've been missing those shows because I haven't been making it to Joburg as much as I used to back in
Yeah.
those
Where are you?
days.
Where are you? Are you in Durban or KwaZulu-Natal?
I'm in
Where are you?
Pretoria. I'm in
And where?
Pretoria. I'm in
Oh,
Scotland.
Pretoria, because you said the capital city. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know why I
Yeah,
thought.
I'm in the
I think
capital.
I
I'm in
think
the
you're
capital.
friends with a lot of people that I know who are from Durban, and I think you know what's his name. V-Way Joker. You know the V-Way, the one who does the headspace. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those guys.
I know viewer online. I've never
Yeah.
really met him.
Yeah. And also you're very
Um,
good friends with Rez. No, have you met Rez? You've met Rez, right? Rez and
we've
Yanzi.
met with Rez. Yeah, we've done some work with Rez as well.
That guy is everywhere. He's everywhere. One day he's
Yeah,
in
no,
Cape Town.
Rez
Yeah,
he's amazing. He's amazing.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
So
but
continue.
but but
Sorry.
that is how, and I think, I mean, these connections that are happening now are reminiscent when I listen to someone like Lififi Tladi speak, because that's who I speak with a lot. Then you realize that there were all these connections between him and Brazim and Dumile and uh, Bekim Seleku,
Yeah.
Motlhabane Motsiangwa, another visual artist. Figile Makadlela is another one that you must check out.
Hmm.
I'll send you stuff,
I think I've
because
heard his music before. He plays saxophone, right? Yeah.
no, Figile Makadlela is a visual artist,
Oh, oh, yeah. I'm thinking about someone else. It's spelled
Yeah.
Mkhizile. Yeah. But okay, go on. Yeah. So.
Um,
Mhm.
Mkhize.
Yeah, I think I was thinking about that guy. He plays saxophone. Yeah, but I was mistaking the name. Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
All right,
I
no,
think
no,
that's
no.
it. Yeah.
We'll remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, so all these guys are connected um, by 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 a single character in the stories that have been told, who is Brajef Mpagati, you know,
Okay.
who was just like, I think, a philosopher, revolutionary, an organizer. He was a cultural organizer, like next level. And a lot of these guys look to him as like the godfather,
Yeah.
They used to congregate at his house all these
Was
artists.
he a mentor of Zim? Was he a mentor of Zim too? Yeah. And it makes sense
He
now
did.
because Zim was an activist, and I think we talked about this in the last show. Zim uses jazz, but that's just one facet of the revolution, and to
For
him,
sure, for sure.
it's just one
And
facet. Yeah,
yeah. No, all these guys then fall into that frame,
yeah,
that they were using the arts in order to be proponents of Black consciousness and
yeah,
of Black revolution and Black becoming,
yeah.
Um, and this is then what I'm trying to pour into my own practice as
Okay,
well. I'm trying to pick up from these guys and learn from them, and
yeah,
then become then an artivist or an activist
yeah.
in that
From
way.
from what I know of you, you I already knew you were an activist because I've seen we're friends, but I've seen we've corresponded. We've had arguments about philosophy and things, but I noticed that no matter how much we argue about philosophy and things, you're more than just a philosopher. You're also a community worker, and I know that. And you're connected to a lot of people in South Africa that I know that are artists and things. So this movement is growing, and you've even influenced me, and you've taught me so much today that I'm going to start doing more research to add. But what I've noticed that in South Africa, not in the US, maybe
Yeah.
back in the day of Basquiat. I don't think Basquiat's movement of artists was a true proper revolution because I think it was based on capitalism. But what you guys
So,
have going
so
on is kind of like what was going on in New York when a lot of those guys like Basquiat were coming together. So what I'm saying is that South Africa right now, especially the cities in South Africa, is the only place I see in the world right now, and I've lived in the US, where there's actually a true artistic, philosophical, spiritual movement. And I'm not exaggerating because
yeah,
and the reason I think so is because South Africa has a strong, I'm not going to say communist, but it has a strong activist left movement, which started with the ANC. The ANC has changed, but in a country, it is one of the only countries on African soil that had white settlers. And I think that's why there's activism there, because once you go through that type of conflict, it leads to beauty. I'm from Nigeria. Nigeria doesn't have the same problem. Nigeria had colonialism, but the British were in Britain and we were
yeah, yeah,
there. But you guys were there. So you guys are radical. That's the proper word. But radical is not a bad word because radical means that we have to change things. Like you said, with art, we have to change the world as we know it to overcome what Black death is. I'll let you expound on what I said, then we'll focus on the Dumile Feni's art. Thank you. Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I mean, yeah, you are sort of correct about this what I sense as a general awakening,
Yeah.
um, and it is being pushed forth a lot by music, and actually when you think about it and when you look back at it, this thing is a long time in the making. I think one looks at when you speak about South African jazz and the way it is influenced by some of the music, the indigenous
Yes.
music
Yes. Yes.
here at
Mhm.
home, and how those influences make their way into jazz music. Um, I think go all the way back to 64. I think it was there was that Kasalaga festival in 64
Okay.
that was where Malombo came out as the sort of the winners of the competition. But
Yeah.
it was, yeah, they were the standout group, and what they were performing was music of the spirits. Malombo is literally music of the spirits,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. And I'm
Yeah.
trying to remember the guitarist that plays a lot of that type of music. Forgot his name now. South
Philip
African
Taban,
guitarist. Yeah.
Philip
He,
Taban,
he
that's Philip Taban.
um is it Tabane or something like that? He plays
Yeah, Philip
guitar.
Taban.
That's the to be honest with you, that's the most spiritual and expressive and not violent, but it has a certain type of energy. And I think that's also a Malumbo aesthetic, right? Yeah. Is it
That
on
is
me?
that is that is Malombo. That is
Yeah.
Malopo.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
Sesotho
Yeah.
it's Malopo. In Chivenda it's Malombo.
Yeah.
You
And
know
when you listen to some of Zim's songs, like his song "A Buffalo," you can hear that sort of rhythmic aesthetic. That
exactly.
now I
Yeah,
now I
yeah,
know
yeah,
where it comes from because of you. Thank you. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's it, with Zim, he's borrowing, of course, from, because language also has a large part to play. Like
Oh yeah.
what language you grew up speaking. So he drew from that East
And,
Xhosa.
and, and, and that's the thing. Jazz and blues,
Mhm.
which is American music, is based on American Black idiom. So it makes sense that Malumbo is a sort of idiom that comes out of South Africa, but it's very complex and it's very energetic. So I can't even use words to explain it. I can't do that. But
Yeah,
thank
yeah,
you.
yeah. You
Continue.
know.
Yeah, continue. Yeah.
Yeah, so it comes from these traditional practices of
Yeah.
dinaka, which is basically traditional music, but it um, loosely translated it means horns. You know,
Okay.
dinaka is because they would always be playing these, blowing into these horns,
Yeah.
and this then for me connects why horn players in South African jazz music become so important.
Yeah.
um, you know, because also on a spiritual level, you're dealing with breath, you know. So that really becomes a particular kind of, there's a particular kind of focus in terms of jazz musicians in SA. When you think about those that play horns, when you think Mankunku, you think
Yeah,
Brazil.
Mankuku. Yeah, that's the one I was thinking about. Mankuku. Yeah,
Yeah,
he plays.
Mr. Mankunku. Even
Yeah,
even Bekim Seleku played the
yeah. That guy's a
saxophone.
genius. He's a genius.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Piano, saxophone, and this is the thing. South Africa. When I say South Africans, what I mean is really Africans are multi-instrumental people. We clap, we use our voice, we use everything. So
For
everything is
sure.
so it just doesn't matter. And the European conception of music is the metronome, and you have to learn the scales and you have to learn your instrument and you just play the note. But that's not the African conception of music. The African conception of music is broader and involves more of, like you said, air, your lungs, your body, everything. Which is why when Black people came to the US, they were able to take the guitar and treat it and do polyrhythm and treat it
Exactly.
as if it's a drum. But also, not only
Yeah,
a drum, it has sort of like that malumbo, that elasticity, the bounce, everything. They can do it with anything, even with their mouth. Even the hip hop guys started beatboxing. This goes to
yeah.
show you. Yeah. But
Yo,
anyway,
yo, and
go
I
ahead.
mean,
Go ahead.
this is where we see, because Philip Tabani played the electric guitar, but he played it in ways that we hadn't thought um,
Yeah. Yeah.
it could be
And
played. It could be played that way before.
yeah.
But from that time, in the 60s through to the 70s, then we began to see um, bands coming up who used to play jazz. And you could see that there was a Black consciousness posturing to it, or an Afrocentricity to it. You got
Yeah.
guys like Batsumi, Sakile. Even the names were no longer like the jazz ministers or the jazz epistles or the
Yeah.
jazz. There was
Yeah.
all these African names, Dashiki,
Yeah.
Mamalo poets, and all those things.
Sorry,
So
can I
all
add one
these.
point? Can I add one point? And it's gotten to the point now, and I think we can talk about who's the pianist from South Africa now that's doing very well. They got it from Blue Note. I can't remember his name right now. But the
Uzo
point is,
Makhathini.
yeah,
Makhathini.
Makatini, yes, thank you. Beer is making my memory go bad. But anyway, so you said it, and I agree because I was talking to someone else, and they said that he said this, which is that it's not even jazz anymore; it's spiritual improvisation. That's what South African music is. That
Yeah,
word,
yeah, yeah.
that word jazz to me, it's one of those words that we can use as a reference point, but it doesn't apply to much Black music at all. I think it stops after Louis Armstrong. Once you get to Coltrane, but you can still hear its echo. But it's getting to the point with South African jazz artists. Let's just call it jazz for convention. It's spiritual improvisation, which doesn't have any dictated rules. It has spiritual rules, but it doesn't have dictated rules. So if you want to swing like Billie Holiday, you can, or if you want to do a drone, you can. And that's what we saw Coltrane and Miles Davis try to do. But I think it takes someone who's situated on African soil like Zim to perfect it, because
Yeah,
Coltrane had to do
because
studies.
you're closer to the root
Yeah, it's your
of
root. I
of,
mean,
of
Coltrane has that root. You can hear it, but he had to search more
yeah,
for it. But I get the feeling someone like Zim already has it because because of the language, and it's something you grew up with as a child. So it's your first language. Whereas with someone like Coltrane, he learned it later on, but he never really got past jazz. And maybe someone
yeah,
like Albert Eiler. But yeah, continue. Sorry. Yeah.
yeah, man.
We-
So you get this movement that's coming up, um, and amidst all of that, you get the one of the first jazz album covers that has an artwork as a cover, which is Dumile Feni's artwork. I think it was Gideon Malo's
okay.
album. I remember which one. But it has Dumile Feni's artwork on, and from there you start to see all these album artworks that are
Yeah.
um,
And there's the
you know,
one
like
with the other
that
artist
are
you told me
next when
that has the woman looking at the tree. Who's the artist you were talking about that's influenced by Dumeni?
the Mzwandile.
Yeah, his work is very good.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I
let's
mean, Mzwandile. What Mzwandile is doing now is, man, yo,
so let's
it's
pivot.
it's
Let's pivot because this was supposed to be talking about Dumeni Fen. Can you pronounce it?
well,
It's,
well. I mean, I'm
So what I mean is I'm not angry actually. What I'm saying is that I'm laughing because
yeah,
this is the way spirituality and improvisation works. We're having a beautiful conversation, and is going full circle to the artwork. For the first name is it Dumeni, right?
Dumile Feni.
Dumile
Yeah,
Feni. So
yeah,
what I'm saying is that his work is very dark and heavy and is Afro pessimistic. It shows what I call like almost being black and being dead, but while still being alive, almost unmovable. And there's a sort of frozen pain. But now when you get to the other work, like what's the other artist who that you said is doing great work that referenced him in some of his work?
Unzandile.
Yeah, his work still carries that as a reference, but it becomes more bright and more like let's fight back and try to live because you have to be a migrant. You have to go from the mines into the big cities, so you don't have time to be stuck into that black death mode. Although it's there inside of you, but now you're fighting it, and that's what I see jazz as being, and blues, and even gospel. Any black music from black people who suffered is that the music has a dark center, but it's hopeful. And so this is kind of like the dichotomy between black consciousness and Afro pessimism. We know that we have that Afro pessimistic root, which is what Feni's work has. It has that root, but that root it almost looks unmovable, like I accept my fate and I am dead.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
jazz or the other artworks, they still have that blues. I accept my fate, but I'm going to find a way to continue moving on and find freedom. And you made a statement for the only solution to the problem is the world that we know as it is right now has to change. Continue. Sorry.
yeah. No, it has to end. You know,
Yeah, it has to end. That's what I meant.
that's
That world has to end. That's
yeah,
you know what that means. I think that means that once it ends, when we become anew, we'll have a different identity. There will be no
no,
reference to that old.
for,
We'll be
for
new human
sure.
beings.
I mean,
And
it's
and this is our first ancestors when they came on Earth. You know, white people are black. They just migrated to other parts of the world. But when they came on Earth, there was no such thing as racism or this and that. They were human beings facing a new world. And I think that when this world,
yeah,
as we know it, has to end, we're going to come to the awakening with no reference to that, and we're going to go back to where we were with our first ancestors. Continue, sir.
yeah, man. It's similar to what you were referring to about the New York arts movement uh, with Basquiat and them
Yeah.
that
Basquiat was a genius, but could you imagine if Basquiat had been born in South Africa with the cultural reference? He's already a genius, but he's tainted by capitalism. So his approach to capitalism, you can also see Black Death in his own word, but it's suicide. It's suicide. That's why he died with drugs. And I'm not talking bad about him. I'm just saying that he
yeah,
is the African spirit distilled through slavery. He came from Haiti, so he suffered so much. But can you imagine if he had grown in South Africa? Sorry, continue. Yeah.
yeah, no, it would have been a different thing altogether. And I mean that this, I mean, I think the same kind of this idea of death sort of replays itself when I think of Dumile's own life and his own passing. You know,
Yeah. How did he pass?
and
Yeah.
he was in the States,
Yeah, I know he was
and
in exile. Yeah.
yeah, he died in exile and he was ill, and he was, you know, literally the epitome of what is a struggling artist at the time, and he died in a drugstore, when he was with someone who was trying to get him medicine because he couldn't afford the
Yeah, and I've seen
medicine.
interviews with
You
him,
know,
and you could tell that he was frail and he was suffering a lot of mental and physical anguish in his life. Yeah.
so there were all those kind of pressures
Yeah.
um, that were sort of, you know, heaped on him. And another person that it makes me think of, who's a photographer also from Pretoria, is Ernest Cole,
Let's
whose
go. Yeah.
work also, yeah, whose work also sort of is, he's also part of this troupe or this clique
Yeah.
that was influenced by Prajev, you know, that was mentored by Prajev. Um,
By the way, very quickly, we're wearing similar types of things. You see, that's
yeah, no,
a
no,
spiritual, and I like the art in the back. But you continue. Sorry, I went
yeah,
off
man.
tangent there. Yeah, yeah,
So there's, you know, there's all these sort of aspects that then connect, then what you see in these visuals is very clearly reflected in the sound when you
Yeah,
listen to.
and very quickly, when you told me that you're going to link sound to jazz and everything, I had a vague idea that it would be more of imagery in motion, but that's not what it is. It's actually spiritual, and I can see it now because when with the work of Feni, um, his work is very heavy and stuff. But you can see that's the gravity that you hear in any serious jazz musician, whether it's Miles Davis or John Coltrane. Even though they have different ways, because Miles Davis tries to play beautiful notes, but you can still hear the sonorous pain there. And Coltrane has a
Yeah,
sort of fierce anger, and Zim has a vitality. I think Zim is the most vital because Zim is definitely not an Afro pessimist. That guy is very enthusiastic. So I don't even know when I listen to Zim, the way he references pain is very brilliant. That's the only way I can say it. But continue. Sorry.
yeah. There's
Yeah.
that. I don't know if you read that brief piece on Mokhorosi's The Aesthetic, where
Oh yeah, I
he
have the book. Continue talking. I'm
yeah,
going to bring it for you. Keep talking. Yeah.
yeah, where he references Zim's which song is it again? But it's
He
this
talks
one
about
where
he talks about Kubi. Kubi, the song. Look,
Kubi,
look.
yeah,
Is
Kubi.
it, look at this. Look at this. I have it on my desk. This is a seminal piece of work.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, but isn't it
I'm,
funny that you were talking about it and it's just 2 seconds away from me? He talks about
yeah,
Kubi. Yeah, continue. Sorry.
and to me speaking about Kubi um and he is speaking about it from that. I mean, the book is um sort of a reference to how
Yeah, and
music has been
the
expressing this
very quickly, I
this
just want to give a shout out to him because if you notice on my shows, I keep saying the blues is not pain and you can't express pain. I got that from this book. I learned that from him, and I agree because
yeah,
before that, I thought that music and art expresses pain, but then when I realized what he said, there's an empty space that can be expressed. But
that cannot be
I
expressed.
think Feni comes close. But continue. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah,
so so when you read the entire scope, then you begin to see where these guys were coming from on on a mental plane, you know, on a psychological level.
yeah,
That what they were trying to do. What I think this is also what Lififi continues saying, that the purpose of art is to elevate consciousness, you know,
yeah,
all art
yeah.
forms, you know. And this is what these guys were trying to do, um, to elevate the general sense
Yeah.
of consciousness of
So
people
I'm gonna
beyond.
identify a conflict here. So I agree with you, but there's also the idea of the artist as personal. So the way you have Ubuntu, you have the collective, but you have the individual. So I think this is where the clash comes because a lot of times as artists, especially me, I want to express my own thing regardless of the whole community. But I think a good artist, like maybe a Basquiat or someone, should be able to talk about their personal, but there's still a relation to the community, even if it means showing people how to live with grace and to solve their problems. That still has a communal effect. But go on, yeah. But some other artists are at the community level, some artists it's more explicit how it's everyone together. But I think we need to recognize that there's a clash between individual and community. That's just part of nature. But
Yeah,
continue.
but it's a dichotomous thing that happens within
Yeah,
the philosophical kind of thinking of Ubuntu, right?
yeah, yeah.
And because we are, but I am like,
Mhm.
um if the I is not strong, then the we, you know,
Yeah,
also
yeah.
can't be. So
And
so
and
so
it
that
requires a very delicate balance. But I think that's what art, culture, and music is. It's about
yeah,
complexity and balance. But continue. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. So the pouring of individual perspective into collective uh consciousness is important,
Yeah,
right?
and I think
To
that
say,
until that is solved, you won't see the end of war, racism, and all those things until that thing is solved. Because before these things came to Africa, there was already a schism within us based on this
mhm,
dichotomy, and that's why our other groups and cultures were able to defeat us. So this is a spiritual quest that we are on, I actually think. And I think every artist and activist and community
mhm,
worker needs to respect their individuality, but they need to realize that you and I, like for you saying there's a movement, you're saying there's a movement in South Africa that was started way back, and Zim and everybody's continue it. Right now, I'm now part of that movement, but that movement has no borders. We're trying to save the Black race, and we're trying to save the human race also. Continue. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it is a human.
It's a human thing. And even I don't even like the word black, but we know what we mean when we say it. You continue. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a human thing. I think this is why we're leaning more towards Ubuntu,
Yeah.
towards
And I always use the
Ubuntu.
word, I always say, South Africans tell me, you know how sometimes South Africans say, oh, you don't know what it means. No, I know what it means because that same concept is in West Africa. It's voodoo. Voodoo. It's still the general, it's the collective
Yeah,
consciousness.
it's
It's just a
into.
different word. It's just a different word for the same thing.
Yeah.
But sorry, continue. Yeah.
Yeah. So it is this idea of Ndu, you know.
Yeah.
Where someone was saying in another commemoration of Zim recently, he commented on how Zim referred to Africa as the continent, you
As the
know.
what?
Continent.
Oh, Quantum. I think he has a song like that too. Yeah. Yeah. I know that name. Yeah. I don't know what it means, but I know what it, yeah, I know the name. Yeah.
I mean, Kwantu means the place of being,
That's the
of
place of being.
human being,
Yeah. And I always joke with
of
people.
human,
It's the place of being. I
of
always joke with people. The second closest is India before the Persians came there. But people from India were from Africa and they found their way through that strait. And you see a high level of spirituality in India, but I think the highest concentration is in Africa. And that's not a racist statement. It's because this is the origin. But continue. Sorry.
for sure, you know. So yeah, Ntu is human being. So
Yeah. And that's what it
Kwantu
is. We're all
is the
human
place
beings. Yeah.
of human being or human becoming, you know.
Yeah. And race
Um,
and even tribe. This is what destroyed Nigeria, different tribes.
yeah,
Tribe is not a good concept either. We're human beings and we need to have a uniform. We can have variations from place to place in the world, but there needs to be a basic humanity. And I think that's what people like you are trying to do is to bring out the consciousness of being a human being, which is what our
yeah.
ancestors were. Our ancestors were human beings, you know, even though
Or
sometimes they
human,
fight each other. You even have fight within
yeah,
a family. Go on, yeah.
yeah. No, they were Abantu,
Yeah.
and of course because perceptions are not always uniform. There
Yeah.
has to be that conflict in order for us to sort of find a unified.
Just like we've argued years ago, we used to argue about philosophy, we'd always come to an agreement at the end.
Yeah,
Remember?
no,
But that
there's a
means your heart is pure. It means your heart is pure. Continue, sorry.
yeah. There needs to be like a unified um black spiritual theory, you know.
Yeah. We're gonna work on that. We're gonna both work on a book on that. I'm serious. We're gonna work on that.
Yeah.
We're gonna work on that. Yeah.
In terms of the way I see, and I think this is where um we've been stifled as a people because we haven't had this unified spiritual theory or
Yeah.
unified spiritual
Yeah.
practice,
Yeah.
not even
I think
theory, but
it's been disrupted by several things, capitalism and also communism. I like socialism, but socialism is not an African theory. But there are things within socialism that we can agree in. But I think we now have to have movers. We don't say we're on the left. We're not on the left. We're nowhere. We're in the center. We're actually in the spiritual center. So I think this is important because nowadays when you say you're an activist, people think that means socialism and communism. But my thing is
yeah,
an
it,
activist.
it, it means left. And I was actually recently looking this thing up to say like what's this right and leftist
Yeah,
thing, because
it's you
I
know what
don't
it is?
agree.
It's based on a false understanding of reality. Reality is not a
Yeah,
left to right spectrum. It's not.
yeah. So it doesn't really make sense when you look at it at depth, you
Yeah.
know.
Although I
There's
prefer
I
left to
think
right.
yeah I think there's more um consumerist ideals and creative ideals, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah. And
um
and so what you're
yeah
doing is where you're situating along with Zim and the other guys, the idea of the activist as being a musician, a cultural person, a poet, a scientist, everything. You can't put us into one thing. And this is what the first human beings were because they had to do that to survive, to keep the human race going when they didn't have food and they had to hunt.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, for
Yeah.
sure. So yeah, so you see in the visual practice, I mean, we spoke about Dumile, but I think I made reference to Dumile in particular, but I don't think the practice is isolated to him. Lififikadi
No, it
does the
isn't. It
same.
isn't. And you know what's funny? Kind of like where Zim.
Ngqawana does the same thing.
Yeah.
And Fikile Makajela does the same thing. On the visual spectrum, Winston Saori does the same thing visually.
So what you were doing is you were using Dumile as a reference point to begin the conversation. That's all. That's
to
just it.
begin the conversation, but also because I see this connection between him and Mzwandile, you know.
Yeah. And I saw it too because when I look at Nzwandile's work, it still has some of Dumile's references, you know, stone faces that look terrible. Not terrible, that look heavy. But then he has the women who look kind of like stone, but there's light coming out of their eyes and they're animating the tree. So what he's doing is he's using death as a reference, but he's showing you how to spiritually overcome it.
I don't think
not as a reference. Not as a reference, but as one of the elements. As one of the elements, not as a reference.
Yeah, I think he's referencing spirit, you know.
Spirit, yeah. But within spirit, he does have icons within his.
Surpasses death. So
maybe I'm wrong. Sorry to cut you in. Maybe I'm wrong. But within all of his spirit work, there is always a reference in relation to some of those zombie-like figures that you see in Dumile's work. You know, like the one where people he'll show somebody walking into the city and the city looks bright, and in the back there's sort of like a stone type of thing. So I think I wouldn't say that he's referencing death, but I think it's part of his vision. Not death, but the zombie, the pain. That's why I call it being dead while alive. It's basically depression. That's what it is. It's depression. That's what I think. But continue.
Yeah. I think in Dumile's work, that's what you get because it's work that is contained within the general social.
His work is very pessimistic, and actually it's too pessimistic, to be honest with you. but I think it's important to have him there because
but
continue, sorry.
But I see sort of the work that Mzwandile is doing as an upliftment.
Yeah. So what I was going to say, can I clarify myself? I'm saying that it's an upliftment, but it doesn't deny that there is still pain in the person who's uplifted. It just shows how if you have that. Yeah. So that's what I meant. So for example, like now, I think I have latently inside of me depression and anxiety. But I wake up at 4 a.m. I work with you, so I'm animistic. But there's still a manifestation of my depression in everything I do. Like now, I have a beer. You get my point? Or maybe I worry. If you have children, you worry about your children. But the idea of Black music is supposed to show you joy without denying that there is also pain and also death, because death is the human condition. Also, we'll never escape it.
I think it's about transposition of those things.
Yeah, okay.
You need to transpose the pain.
So you're going to a higher spiritual thing, and that's where we come to eternity. But I even believe that when we reach the level of transposition, that thing is still in there, because I think reality never loses any part of it. So even in transposition.
It's just transposing that one form of energy into another thing.
Yeah, the Europeans call it sublimation. or alchemy. Yeah.
Or alchemy. Yeah, it's a form of alchemy.
Now, can I say something? This is the craziest conversation I've ever had. This is a high level conversation. Guys are gonna love this video.
Yeah. So I think this is what visual artists who are practicing in this kind of way of
Oh, it's breaking again. It's breaking again.
To this day, oh man,
So let me ask you a question. The work behind you, is it your work or is it someone else? Is that your work behind you?
This is my work. This is my work.
Unbelievable. This is a spiritual work. And I see everything in there. There's a smile there. This is like a voodoo trickster. There's a smile there. There's even a little bit of evil. I'm not trying to use the word evil, but there's a little bit of definitely, but it's very triumphant. That's a very triumphant image. So we're going to continue this session 2 weeks from now from where we stopped because we're probably reaching the limit. But can you give us your thoughts on the work you did and what it means? Yeah, yeah.
Well, this is something that we did for as a tribute to Babu Kledo Muto.
Yeah, the only way I remember him, he's from KwaZulu Natal, and he talks about the origins of humans coming from the sea. But continue,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
so we did this with a musical. It was a musical visual arts performance with Busile Kaba, the
Okay,
guitarist. And it's a part of the series of masks that
okay,
that I've been creating.
yeah. And I've seen your work that you do on
Yeah,
on Instagram. I would call you a spiritual expressionist. How would you define your music? Not your music, your art. Yeah, yeah. It has high levels of expressionism, but I might be wrong. How would you define your art? Yeah. What was your art, Malumbo?
I don't think I'm. Yeah, Malopo. It would be Malopo. Yeah.
Yeah, I got it. I
That's
got it right. I got it right. I got it
yeah,
wrong
yeah,
at first, but I
yeah,
got it right afterwards. Yeah.
yeah.
And
No, no.
La, um, Lefifi
It's the
also
practice. Yeah.
Lafifi also has a similar type of thing, but he uses a lot more brighter colors. I think yours is a little bit. The work that you do is a little bit goes. It's kind of dark, and when I say dark, I don't mean bad. But I've seen Lafifi's work also. It's a little
No,
bit
no, for
brighter.
sure.
Yeah, but continue. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, because a lot of my work sort of is picked up from dreams, and
yeah,
I see dreams in this like in
yeah,
like this faded place. So it's always like the way I remember them is faded. It's hardly ever very
yeah. Can I
bright
say
and
one thing
beautiful.
quickly? My poetry is
Yeah,
based on dreams, and I've come to the belief that it's not you can't remember exactly what the dream was about, but you have an impression on it, and the impression is what leads to the work you do afterwards. Continue. Yeah, yeah,
for sure, for sure. So yeah, but that is basically what my work is about. But yeah,
yeah,
but I think the one thing that I wanted to sort of come to, referring back to this meeting that I had with Uprazim
yeah.
at the performance, yeah, vandalism, and the way that you also mentioned about how he, as an activist, he activated everything, you
Yeah.
know, um, including what we
Personally,
would.
here's what I believe. Quickly, here's what I believe. I think that's why he probably died young because his energy was too much for the human form. But continue. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of debate still out on that from his peers, but
Yeah.
I'll leave that to the
I won't get
elders.
into that. I won't get into that.
Yeah,
But he had a
yeah.
stroke.
We'll leave that to
It
the
might have been
elders.
he had a stroke, but he had a lot of nervous energy. I know that much for sure. But
Yeah,
continue.
yeah.
Yeah.
But the performance vandalism was performed at an art gallery actually, and it was a it was an exhibition, right?
Was it in Hillbro? Because I know he liked to hang out in Hillbro.
No,
Yeah.
no, no. It was in Parkhurst or something.
Okay. Yeah. You're bringing back
In
memories. I want to go back to Joburg. I love that city, man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was in at Gallery Momo.
Okay, yeah. And you know what's funny? You guys won't believe it. I only started doing research at 3 in the morning because you told me, but I saw where they did his exhibition at Feni's exhibition at Momo. Feni's
Yeah,
exhibition. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Continue. Yeah.
No, they did. So Brazil did this exhibition, and what brought this exhibition on actually was a break-in at his farm, the farm that was the Zymology Institute, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
some kids came in, they broke in, crackheads came and broke in, and they stole all the
Yeah.
metal, all the copper, all the stuff
And then
like.
hold on, and then he turned it into a performance to talk about it.
Yeah,
Continue.
they chopped off the copper from the piano so that the piano was left lying on the floor,
Yeah.
you know. So during the performance, Kyle Shepard was playing piano
The
with him
pianist,
on.
yeah. He's in Cape Town,
Yeah,
right? I think, yeah, yeah.
yeah, from Cape Town, and the piano was put on top of bricks, and he was seated on the ground like in a meditative,
Ah, that's crazy. Yeah.
sort of, and it was in.
Can I add one quick thing?
Yeah,
When I listen to Zim's song, at Buffalo, I think it expresses that type of chaos and wildness. But continue, yeah.
yeah. but this is this thing about transposition that I'm speaking about,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
How Zim took all the things that were damaged there, turned them into artworks, into an exhibition. There was a point during the performance where he was playing a pipe that was connected to a geyser.
My God.
It was blowing into that thing as the instrument, which sounded like exactly like Dinaka, like when they play horns,
Where
you
where
know.
where can I find this video?
Um, I think you must search for vandalism. I DVD I bought from him that day.
Okay, I'll get it from you at one point
Because
when I come to
yeah, yeah,
South Africa.
I'll
Yeah.
yeah, I'll try and find a way that I can actually, maybe we can even maybe try and
So, and
digitize this.
I'm gonna mention one thing you said. He played the pipe and he made it sound like the instrument, and that's the
Yeah,
sign of a spirit. A spirit.
like yeah, he like it sounded more like a horn, like the
Yeah,
traditional
what I'm
horn.
saying is that that's a true musician because I've heard
Yeah,
musicians
yeah,
that I've heard Coltrane. Somebody like Kenny Burrell will be playing the guitar, and Coltrane will change the dynamics of the saxophone to sound like it's a stringed instrument. You get my point?
yeah,
But those guys, it's not, you can't come up with a physical or technical explanation why they're able to do it. They are spirits, but also they practice. We don't want to ever say that spirituality is just intuition. It's also practice. Continue. Sorry.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this was sort of like the practice of transposition, that
Yeah.
this, I mean, this was a mishap. It was a break-in. This person, well,
That's
in fact,
improvisation. Yeah.
of
Improvisation comes from
yeah, for
accident.
the
Yeah.
first couple of days, he was depressed. He did say, he was like, yo, I was depressed. I was like, but then he started looking at all these things. He's like, how can I use these things now?
Yeah.
You know?
Now, this I'm
He,
making a stretch when I say this, but it's the same thing I think about when I see Dumile Feni's work. It's very depressing, and I'm very depressed
yeah.
at some level. But as a creator, I take that depression and other things
How,
and use
how
alchemy,
can I use it?
wizardry, whatever you want to call it, even chaos,
Yeah.
and we create art. And I think that's what we do as artists is that we take mishaps and things that are very painful and we use them to create. And then that's where you find joy. You can't find joy unless it was a solution to pain. So sorry, continue. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And Brazil was saying on the day that, this exhibition is a way to honor the Vandals,
Yeah.
at
And
that
also those
time.
vandals, they're doing that because they are coming from poverty, which was caused by apartheid.
Exactly. So he when he said he was honoring them, he
They're not bad
really,
people. They are not bad. It's just that this
yeah.
is where pain
But
comes from. Yeah.
but he was also trying to flip this thing that they had
Flip it.
done,
Yeah. Yeah.
to say, actually, what you guys did is you gave me a gift, you
Yeah, so
know.
that's kind of like
'Cause-
putting it in their face too. Yeah. And we can
Yeah, yeah,
also
yeah,
say
yeah.
that about apartheid and slavery and stuff because they did that to us. What we have is a gift to the world, the blues, jazz, South African music, and we are happy that we went through that because
Yeah,
what we gained from it. So you didn't defeat us. I'm not an Afro pessimist. You did not defeat us.
yeah,
You transitioned us to transposition, which is a transcendent position. Continue.
yeah. I think it's just a way of highlighting our strengths through
Yeah, yeah.
adversity.
Funny enough, I'll
But
let you know something. Like I use humor a lot, but people don't realize that my humor is actually based on transposition of pain. You get my point?
yeah,
I play the
yeah,
clown, so it's the same type of thing. The clown. I'm the clown.
yeah.
But continue. Yeah, yeah,
It was exactly in that humorous spirit where he
yeah,
said vandalism actually was in honor of the Vandals.
yeah.
He
And
he wanted to exalt them, but
yeah,
but also, I mean, when I think about it, the people who broke in would have probably have been young people our age at the time,
yeah,
who actually could have benefited from the Zymology Institute by
yeah,
being there
yeah,
and learning instruments, but because of the condition in which that they live, this Afro-pessimistic condition where, like, nobody gives a shit about anything, like we
nobody.
don't
And
give,
and very
you
quickly,
know
I tell people that when you look at guys like Puff Daddy or these rap guys, Puff Daddy's dad was killed when he was young as a drug dealer. This is where
Mm.
they're coming from. They're coming from a position of pessimism, and it's a threat. But workers like you and like me, we're going to find a solution to this problem. Continue. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So this transposition, I mean, there was even a point where the piano was being played, sideways, and
it sounds like a Goya painting.
it was insane, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
think
wish I was there. I wish I was there.
in the video, when you see the video, the vandalism film documentary, I think it was Aryan Kaganov who did it.
Yeah, I know Arian. Yeah, I know him.
Yeah,
He's in
yeah,
Cape
yeah,
Town
yeah.
too. Yeah, he's in Cape
Yeah, I
Town.
think he's the one who documented that time in I think it was shortly before Zim passed in
Maybe
2010.
maybe I'll inbox him and ask him to. I got published in his one of his thing Harry. I wrote something about trap music.
In
Trap music.
yeah,
Yeah,
I remember that.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, man. I mean, if I think that it might be on Vimeo because I know
Yeah, I'll check it because a lot of his videos are on Vimeo. I saw one where he was with Andile. I can't say the last name. Andile, the guy who broke off from EFF. Andile
yeah,
is
no.
starting. Yeah, yeah. I didn't want to mess up the name. I can't do that, man. Yeah. That guy is very controversial too. I got into an argument with him once about because he's a black capitalist, but he's a good guy. He's a good guy though. Yeah.
Yeah,
This,
no. He's a revolutionary
but do
through
you
and
but do you
through.
see how all of us are connected? We're all connected.
No, that's why I'm seeing this community and this movement that
Yeah.
is happening and how it is connected to this movement from
Yeah.
from this, you
And
know.
already, I see
It,
you already. I don't know how old you are, but you're already an elder. You're already an elder. I see you as a leader. I'm being serious. Yeah. So continue, sir.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
so 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 you see it from this spark point in 64, and of course it predates that. It predates
Yeah.
even I would even argue that it predates the ANC because the
ANC.
ANC.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. That's going to be something that we can research. Yeah, because I was thinking about Mandela.
But yeah,
People need
I
to.
think we'll speak about it when we do the political animals.
Animals, yeah. So
Uh,
I have to leave soon, but what I want to say is sorry to cut it now, but this was a great thing, and this is the beginning of a good thing. You're going to be on political animals, and we're going to be doing cultural shows, not cultural shows, cultural research and deliberation and meditation on these types of platforms.
yeah,
So what
yeah,
I
yeah,
want to say
yeah.
is that next time we're going to focus more on Dumile Feni. We're going to focus more on his work also, but we're going to continue. This was one of the greatest experiences I've had because nobody knew where it was going to lead. And this is what spiritual improvisation is. Jazz music or the type of music that Zen plays, which I think is a hybrid. You start with a theme or a reference, and then you don't know where it's going to go. And
And
this is what's
and
going to.
and
And
and you
also
and
our
you, and
friendship.
you
We
move
started on
it.
Facebook. A lot of people say, "Oh, don't do Facebook because it's a social thing." I agree, but if not for Facebook, I would not have met you.
Yeah, no,
And
no, man.
yeah, yeah,
There's positives to this thing.
to everything,
I
we can
suppose
flip everything. We can even flip Facebook. Don't go on
yeah,
Facebook,
that's
but
also a transposition. That is
transposition.
also a
Okay. So thank
transcendence.
you. So I'm going to text you afterwards on the medium that we'll talk a little bit about some things, but we're going to be
Yeah.
back probably. What days work for you? Saturdays and Sundays?
Yeah. Weekends are good.
Weekend. So probably
Saturdays.
either next weekend or the weekend after that. We also want to say let's honor Zim. I want to tell you that I love Zim music, and as soon as I started listening with him, I had a friend called Lefifi. I was working in Davidson, and he was like, I said, let's listen to some jazz. He said, "Sus man, I hate jazz." He said, how some South African guys hate jazz. They like I'm a
Mm.
piano and all that stuff. When I played Zim, we were listening to it every day. This was in May. Then he said, "Yo, your boy Zim died yesterday." So, and I had put him onto Zim's music because he said he hated jazz, but I think he
Yeah,
loved the
yeah,
music.
yeah.
His name was Lefifi. He was Soto or something like that. I think what he recognized in the music was not the American conception of jazz. What he was listening to was African music. And nobody can say they don't like that. So I'll let you take us out, and then we'll meet up again. But I want to say thank you very much. May the spirit, I'm not going to say God, may the spirit bless you. But any last words for us? Yeah.
Blessings, man. So
Yeah.
yeah, man. I think yeah, that is. I think that is the practice that we're enthralled in. This practice of transcendence.
Yeah. Transcendence and
This,
transposition. Yeah.
yeah. This is what Uprazim was all about through his practice. At least, like in this closest, most intense form that I saw him
Yeah.
um, at the gallery performing. This is what he was doing, and I think this is what all these artists that came
Yeah,
from Dumile and all these other guys that I mentioned, all
yeah.
these bands, Batsumi, Sakile, Dashiki, the Model Poets,
You're forgetting
they
one
were all,
name. You're forgetting one name, Lorato Kuzwayo, who's a great artist. I'm not being funny. I'm not trying to joke.
yeah,
Your work
man.
is brilliant, and it needs to be highlighted. But sorry, continue. Yeah,
Yeah, man. So
yeah,
yeah, I wish and hope and am working my way into being a disciple of this kind of movement,
yeah,
and lend service to it. And yeah, if also these conversations can be a way of lending more service, also because
yeah.
this also helps me also think
Yeah, you helped me
more
think
about.
because let me tell you, I had never heard of Dumile Feni until you told me about him. And this morning I did research on him. But once I did research on him, I already knew that at a spiritual level, I know who he is, which is why I'm able to improvise on what he did because he's connected to
Sure,
other
sure.
people. Yeah. Because as soon as I looked
Yeah,
at his work, the first thing that came to my mind was Afro pessimism. Then when I thought about Zim, that sort of optimism, which blasts through it. And you just clarified it for me. It's transposition.
yeah,
That's the main thing with me.
yeah, for
So, Loretta,
sure.
I want to thank you very much. Enjoy your Saturday. I'm going to text you with some information now, but I want to thank you very much. Thank you for showing up to honor Zim. And we want to say that we love South Africa. I love Nigeria, where I come from. I love African Americans, and I love everybody else also. But I want everybody else to realize
The
that,
continent, brother, the continent.
Quartony, that's what I was about to say. We're all one people. That's
Yeah,
it.
people of the
And
continent.
pigmentation is about migration. That's all it is.
Yeah,
We're one people, and our goal is to uplift people in South Africa, uplift people in the world, uplift everybody. But we have to realize that racism has to stop. What's also happening in Israel and Palestine, it has to stop. So I'm going to
yeah,
thank you
yeah,
very much.
yeah, yeah.
How are you going to spend your Saturday? Yeah.
I've got some reading to do, man. I've got
All right.
some reading to
Yeah, you're
do.
like me. You're a reader. But see, I'm 50 years old now. I've all done my reading now. It's time for me to do YouTube shows.
Is it?
All right. Thank you. I love you, brother. And like I
Yeah,
said, look out for a text from me and we'll talk. We're going
no,
to
no,
meet
no.
up in
I've
two
got
weeks.
some reading to do throughout the day, and then yeah,
This is not
cause
the end. This is the beginning. Good day, sir. Okay.
right, man. Let's stay connected, brother. Peace, peace.
Okay. Okay.